Hello from the Thayer Public Library Virtual Circulation Desk. Since the library building has been closed, you may have seen some of our staff through virtual story times, virtual book clubs, genealogy club, places like that. But those of us in the circulation department really miss our chance to chat with you across the desk as you check out your library materials. So since it may be a while before we're all together again, during the library's phased reopening period, we thought we'd bring the circulation desk to you. So here today to talk about books we've read and movies and TV shows we've enjoyed, we have Carlene and Melissa and myself, Laurie. You may wonder where some other familiar faces are. Unfortunately, they were too camera shy to join us today. So here you have the brave ones. Please remember, we are not professional actors. So, Carlene, do you want to start and tell us something about what you've been reading?
I have been reading a lot of books during quarantine, and my favorite by far, I just read recently, was Michael Connelly's Fair Warning. It is not a Harry Bosch novel, which we all love Harry Bosch, at least I know I do. He's my favorite. Michael Connelly is my favorite author, which I'm sure everyone knows. But Warning is the main character. His name is Jack McAvoy, and he's an investigative journalist. There have been two books about him, but it's been well over 10 years since we've seen him. And you do not need to read the first two books in order to read this one. I absolutely love it. It has to do with DNA and what happens if someone uses it as a tool to pick their targets. And it's kind of cool. So I guess that's my murder and mayhem book, my favorite so far that I've been reading. But I've read a lot of other books, and I can't wait to read something else. How about you, Melissa?
Well, it's funny because this year was the first year I had actually set a goal for myself. I wanted to read 25 books this year. And because of COVID-19, I've read 21 already. So I'm already ahead of my goal. But when the library was closing, I worked on a Monday, it was closing Tuesday, so I grabbed a stack of books, just, whatever I could get, because I knew that we'd be out of the building for a while. And one that I got was The Things We Cannot Say by Kelly Rimmer. It's a historical fiction taking place in World War II, and I loved it. So, of course, I wanted to read more by her. So on my Kindle, I went to Libby, and I was able to get A Mother's Confession, which I think I liked even more. This isn't historical fiction, but it's a fiction story. I loved that by Kelly Rimmer. And right now I'm reading another one on my Kindle that I got through Libby. I can't remember the name of it, but it's Kelly Rimmer, and it's about adoption. So it's what's nice about her. She writes very well, and they're not all the same. They're all really varied stories. I believe she's from Australia, so she was an author I had never heard of before.
Hmm. I'm listening to a historical fiction audiobook right now. It's called Conjure Women. It's by Afia Adakora. She's her parents were Ghanaian immigrants, and she has written this novel. It's her first book, and it's set in the South during the time of the Civil War, kind of before and after, and all that change and the tumultuous time. And it's set on a plantation, and it's really enjoyable in a way. It's about slavery, which is always a difficult subject to read about, but the way the characters are, there's the slaves are fully developed characters. They have full lives as much as possible, but the portrayal of the slaves is much more than the typical way that we often see it portrayed in the media. So I really recommend it as an audiobook, but I'm sure it's also great in print. It's getting really good reviews. Again, that name is Conjure Women.
like Melissa, she said before when she knew that she wasn't going to be in for a while, that she grabbed a bunch of books. I did the same thing, and I've been reading a couple of different Peter Swanson books, and I read a Lisa Jewell book for the first time, and I definitely want to read more of her. And I'm actually, Jessica was always talking about a man called Ove or Ove, whatever you say. I actually have a copy of that at home, and I'm thinking of trying that next. I know I was talking about Michael Connolly and the murder in the book and everything, but I have found during this quarantine and with everything going on in the world that I have been trying to find more lighthearted things, like as far as like TV shows go and everything, and sometimes books. Well, a lot of times with TV shows, I like the more lighthearted stuff, but I just find that I need something a little gentler, and a lot of times it's been harder reading because I can't get into it the way that I used to. But that's what I love so much about the Michael Conley book. I just couldn't wait. But Lisa Jewell, I found her very good too. It's just, it was different than anything I've read in a very long time, and it was just so like, okay, what's going to happen next? And there was a surprise at the end, which I really enjoyed. So it was very good.
Yeah, I've kind of done the same thing with some of the books I brought home. I just found that I'd go a chapter or two in, and some of it I just couldn't read. I just put it aside. Maybe another time I will want to read it. But the book that you were talking about, Laurie, it reminds me, I read Lisa Wingate's new book, The Book of Lost Friends, and that was very good. Also set post-Civil War, but I didn't realize it was based on these letters that the freed slaves, of course, often when they were taken to different plantations, families were split up, and there were many children. But after the Civil War, and when they were freed, they would put letters to these different churches in the South, and they would say, where they were from and what the names of their siblings were, and how they could get in touch with them. And so the book was nice because in between each chapter, they had an actual letter from this time period, and it was heartbreaking. They were heartbreaking to read, but very interesting because, again, a piece of history that I didn't know anything about.
Wow.
Right. Yeah. I've also kind of had the same. I have been alternating serious books with lighter reading, because sometimes it is a little hard to focus. I actually wanted to talk a little bit about or mention this cozy mystery. I know Carlene's not into cozies, but
Unless you're watching the Hallmark Channel, then I'm into it.
this is almost like a little Hallmark movie or TV show in a book. But it's a cozy mystery, which means there is a death and there is a murder, but it's not graphically described, and it tends to be somebody that nobody particularly liked all that much anyway. But this one is set on Cape Cod, which I like, and it's a first in a series. So it's about, it's set in a fictional town of West Ham, Mass. So I don't know if that's kind of like Wareham, but it's a little seaside town on Cape Cod. And the main character is the owner of a bicycle shop. She's a young woman. Her boyfriend slash fiance is a baker. He has a bakery in town. So you get a little bit of the food talk, which I like too. He's an excellent cook, and so it's a cute, cozy mystery if you enjoy that. But it's definitely on the lighter side for anyone who's looking for something a little lighter than.
What was the name of that one?
It was actually called Murder on Cape Cod. I think
okay.
I say that. Murder on Cape Cod by Maddie, Maddie Day. And that one's actually available on Hoopla as an ebook and as an e-audio book. So So it's easy to get even when the library's not open.
I have been doing more cozy mysteries on TV, and that sounds just like something I would watch. So I think I'd be interested in checking out a cozy mystery. I think it sounds good. That's why I'm thinking of trying A Man Called Ove, because I just need something that's a little lighter, that'll put a smile on my face. You know?
That's a great book. You'll love that, Carlene. But I have to be honest, I brought home two cozy mysteries that I tried, and I just couldn't.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's just mysteries just aren't really my thing. Although some
No,
of the
they
books
aren't.
I read, the fiction, they have an element of mystery, but you know,
I see mystery is my thing. That's
uh,
I was like making a little list of different things for here, and I was thinking how I've been doing a softer, gentler, this and that, and then I noticed there's still murders and still mysteries in pretty much all of the books and shows I've been watching. So I
Right.
guess some things never change.
We should mention too that the Michael Connolly book you talked about first.
Yes,
The first two books are The Poet and The Scarecrow.
yes,
That feature Jack McAvoy, right?
yes.
So yeah, and those can definitely be read as standalones because I know my husband read The Scarecrow first and then The Poet, not realizing that they were featuring the same character.
Yeah, and it's been reading this book, Fair Warning, made me want to go back and reread The Poet and The Scarecrow because it's been so long since they've been out. I think it's been about 10 years since he wrote a Jack McAvoy book. And you want to know something? It was fantastic. It was so good. Yeah, I can't recommend it enough. I loved it. You might not like it, Melissa, but I sure did.
I don't know, Carly. Maybe I'm going to have to try it because you rave about it so much.
It's kind of scary too at the same time, all these people doing these DNA tests and all this stuff being sent in and someone abusing the system and and it's creepy.
Yeah,
It was good.
I think if Melissa wants to dip her toe into mystery, maybe don't start with the serial killer kind of level.
I won't sleep at night.
Yeah.
Just don't send your DNA in.
Let her work her way up to that with the murder on Cape Cod or something.
That one I might try, Laurie.
Yeah, that's funny.
Did you have another one, Melissa?
Um,
No,
I did. I enjoyed the book Woman of Troublesome Creek. That was another one that I'd been meaning to read,
Oh,
and I enjoyed that a lot. So that's kind of my thing, historical fiction, as you can tell.
yeah, yeah. I don't read a lot of historical fiction, but I just finished one that I wanted to mention. It kind of reminded me of an Ellen Hildebrand book. I know Ellen Hildebrand has a new book out now, 28 Summers, that everybody's going to want to get their hands on. But this might be an author that people might want to try while they're waiting for Ellen Hildebrand. So it's Wendy Francis, and the book is called Best Behavior. And it was good for this time of year because it was all about a college graduation weekend. And it was set in Boston. It was fictional college, but it was set in Boston. So there were a lot of familiar Boston landmarks and restaurants and things. But there were twins graduating from college, and the parents had been divorced, a number of years ago. So there were the two exes, then their new spouses, and their extended families, all coming together to spend the 72 hours all together, pretty much. So
Oh.
yeah, they were all spreading it equally, I think, including the two kids who were graduating, or maybe they were a little bit less, but everybody had their own issues to deal with, and there were a lot of potential minefields to navigate as far as getting along during this time of stress. And the main character, well, each character kind of gets a chance that you get to find out what they're thinking and how they're dealing with it. But the whole book takes place just over the course of the 72 hours. of the graduation weekend, and there's a lot that happens. It's a lot of family dynamics, family drama kind of things, and also the mother working her way through to the empty nest time of her life, and that kind of thing. So there was a lot to it, and it was enjoyable.
It's funny, Laurie, because I just saw that on Instagram on the Thayer Public Library page, and I read a little synopsis. I figured that was you, and I jotted it down because I said, "Ooh, that looks good."
Yeah, that was me on Instagram. That's right. That's right.
That's so funny. Well, you can find my review of Fair Warning, the Michael Connelly one, on Goodreads and BookBub and on Amazon because I liked it that much.
Oh, wow. Well, of course, people who already know Michael Connelly are probably already ready to get that book. But if you haven't tried Michael Connelly, if for some reason you have not been convinced by Carlene in all these times of the circulation.
He's the best mystery writer there is. As far as I'm concerned, that's my opinion, and there's a lot of people that share that opinion. So
Yes, but so if you do want to try it, this one might be a little darker than the Harry Bosch.
yeah,
So you might want to talk with Carlene, get your personal consultation before you decide.
it was a really good book. You could have it as a standalone, and just to see. I mean, I couldn't put it down, and just to have something that makes you feel like that right now in this, in with everything going on around us, I think is a beautiful thing. Even if it is kind of a scary book in its own way.
Yes. Well, when you mentioned a man called Uber a little while ago, it made me remember a book I just read with Brown Bag Book Club, the Red Address book by Sophia Lundberg. She's Swedish, a Swedish author, so it was translated. But the main character was a woman in her late 90s, and she had an address book, which she had had since she was very young, and all of the names, most of the names have been crossed out because by this point in her life. So it was an interesting start to the book, and then the book goes back and forth in time, so you get to learn about her as a young woman and her life with her sister and the difficulties she went through. But the message of the book overall, even though it's kind of a sad story in a way, the message is uplifting in the end, as far as make the most of your life. You never know how long you're going to have, that kind of thing. So,
Sounds like she had a long time, which is a good thing.
yeah.
But I like books like that too, that leave you with that good feeling, and I like that. I do like my Murder and Mayhem. That will never change. But I like to go off into different ways. Sometimes.
Well, it's always good to branch out.
Yep.
Try new things. So I guess we can stop here, and maybe we'll try this again sometime if people seem to like it. Just remember, if you need help trying out the ebooks or the e-audio books, our reference desk or circulation desk, give us a call, leave us a message. We can get back to you, or you can always email us. But we're happy to help you get up and running with that. And hopefully it won't be too much longer before the library is able to start curbside pickup again. We don't have a definite date, but we are hoping it's going to be not in the real distant future. So I want to say thank you to Carlene and Melissa. Very brave to get on video to do this. This was an experiment for us. So, and thank you all for listening. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Hey.